Good morning, everyone. I'm the Chancellor of UCSF, Sue Desmond-Hellman, and welcome all of you this morning. We're going to hear from a series of speakers, and the first is William Ortiz Cartagena, who's the owner of Gentle Parking.
There
he is. Get out of your way.
Hi, everyone here. My name is William Ortiz Cartagena. I want to just thank the Madam Speaker and the Mayor for the Recovery Act and how it's impacted my San Francisco community, a city that I love so much. Through CDFI funds, which got capital through the Recovery Act, the Opportunity Fund, headed by Eric Weaver, was able to loan me $10,000 last year, in 09. Within a year, I was able to create 13 jobs. In those 13 jobs, I have 2 jobs with the SF Jobs Now program, and just basically is Recovery Act. We're putting food on people's table. I don't know how to explain it. I'm a simple man. I can't articulate it any more complicated than that. It's bringing families together. It's paying the rent. It's putting food on the table. So for that, I thank you, and so does my community. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nat Ford, who's Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Authority. Mr. Ford?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and we have to thank the Speaker as well as President Obama for their leadership, and I'm proud and honored to be here with Mayor Newsom and the rest of the city family to talk about what this economic stimulus package has meant for this city and county and what is meant for the San Francisco MTA. We were fortunate enough to receive $71 million in economic stimulus money, and knowing how the muni system operates with the most diverse and some of the oldest operation in this country, it gave us an opportunity to reinvest in all of our operation, from new technology with our fare collection systems, where we're going to a totally 100% smart card system in terms of our fare gates, to also being able to refurbish our light rail vehicles, do work in terms of our historic streetcars, monies that also went to our rubber tire fleet in terms of our electric trolley buses. So we were able to take that $71 million, spread it throughout the system, reinvest in our infrastructure in terms of getting as good as new. We also were able to take that money and look at new technology as it relates to workstations for making better management decisions and having the technology to make those types of decisions. This economic stimulus package is not just about rubber tires and steel wheels and concrete and number of jobs. Fortunately, we've created directly 601 jobs for the agency, and we've spent down over 50% of the $71 million. But it's also about helping people achieve their dreams, again, putting food on their table, but helping them get to work, helping them to be able to get to school and continue with their lifestyle during this tough economic time. So again, thank you, Madam Speaker, for your leadership, and thank you, Mayor Newsom, for helping us be more streamlined in terms of getting these projects and getting this work on the street and benefiting our community. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Ford, for the Judah. He knows I mean that. I know the Judah well. I'm serious. Our next participant is Mr. Eric Levy, who's from Laundry Locker.
My name is Eric Levy, CEO of Laundromat. Firstly, thank you to the Mayor and thank you to the Speaker for this recovery program. It's been a tremendous help for our business, and it's changed our business and it's changed the lives of the people that work for us. We've been able to increase our workforce by 20% in the last 6 months. Our business has been growing and growing. The last 4 months have been some of the best months of our business. And we're a direct participant in the Jobs Now program, which is a San Francisco business that puts people to work. The people that we're putting to work are great. They have families. They're thankful for the jobs. They're people that would not have jobs if it wasn't for this program. We're talking about a small amount of money relatively. I mean, when these people are talking millions and millions of dollars, I hope one day my business will be multi-million dollar business. But right now, tens, 20s of thousands of dollars make a huge impact to us. And like William says, it puts food on these people's tables. It helps pay for their child care. And it's putting people to work and putting money directly into the economy. So I could not be more thankful for this recovery program and what it's directly done for my business.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Chris Carey from the International Studies Academy.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Chancellor, and thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Christopher Carey. I'm a teacher of U.S. History, Government, and Economics at the International Studies Academy in the Potrero Hill neighborhood of San Francisco. I chose to go into public service because I have a deep conviction that serving others matters. In my first 2 years of teaching, my position was threatened both years. Thanks to the city's Rainy Day Fund and the foresight of Supervisor Tom Amiano and the leadership of the mayor, along with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, I started my third year of teaching this fall. I left a much more lucrative job to teach. I chose to work in one of the lower performing schools in the district with some of the most underserved students in San Francisco. I believe I'm making a difference, and many of my colleagues share similar stories. Without a doubt, the stimulus bill has kept me and many other young, motivated, transformative teachers in their chosen professions and looking forward to long careers. Every year it seems there are further, deeper cuts to education. The stimulus bill helped steady the district's shaky finances and kept me working in the profession I love and with the kids that I care about deeply. This aid matters. This stimulus started with a salary for me, and it ended up with a first-class education for my kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next, I'd like to introduce our Chief of Police here, George Gascon of the San Francisco Police Department, and he'll be also introducing one of the new trainees in the department.
Thank you. You know, the Recovery Act needs to be put in a broader context. And when it comes to public safety, thanks to the leadership of Speaker Pelosi, the President, and others in Congress, we have been able to not only hire 50 or fund for 50 positions in the city of San Francisco, but at the state level we have over 600 new police officers that are working our streets. And recognizing the importance of maintaining a safe environment in order to be able to have an economic growth is foresight that I appreciate, and I think that this is something that many people often forget, that you have to have a safe community in order to have a healthy community, and I'm strongly supportive of the Recovery Act, and we look forward to the further evolutions of this process as we move forward. And we brought in Recruit Officer Pereira, who speaks of her own experience, someone that came from another line of work, someone that was unemployed, an incredibly bright woman that now is in the ranks of the San Francisco Police Department. Please.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. My name is Bernadette Pereira. I was an operating room technician for 12 years, always wanted to be a law enforcement officer, and I applied at the police academy. San Francisco accepted me, perfect city to work in, and this is my second time at the police academy. I was released January 07 due to an injury, and I was on unemployment for 1 year because I couldn't get back into the operating room. People lost their insurances and operating rooms weren't hiring. I got a letter in the mail that in 2 weeks there was going to be another police academy, and I was in it. And I can't tell you my shock and joy when I received that letter, because that 1 year of unemployment I never expected, never thought that I would be among the ranks of the unemployed. And for me and for my class, the entire class of the police academy, we thank the Speaker of the House for opening those funds up for us, for allowing us to have that class. And we appreciate it every day, and we do push-ups every day, happily. Thank you, Speaker.
Terrific. And our next speaker is Mayor Gavin Newsom.
Thanks, Chancellor. I was speaking privately in the back room, and I used language that I suggested didn't come across particularly mayoral when I said that I get ticked off when I listen to the Republicans talk about this stimulus program not having created any jobs. I'm mesmerized by the assertion and the ability that with a straight face they can continue to state it over and over and over again, including my drive from City Hall to this press conference. The fact is, they're simply wrong. In San Francisco, I can provide you detailed documentation and put a human face on 2,910 people that have been employed, that are, as Bill said, putting food on their table, that have the dignity of a job and the opportunity to live their lives out loud because of this program. That number, by the way, does not include all of the saves and all the jobs that were preserved. And I always say the difference between baseball and politics is you don't get credit for saves in politics. The reality is if you add up all the jobs that were saved, you're in the many of thousands of additional jobs. $1 billion $71 million has been drawn down or committed to the city and county of San Francisco. $328 million that went through our budget. $121 million that was designated for UN Plaza. $400 million we are hopeful of that will come to the Trans-Bay Terminal. Doyle Drive, an announcement from the Speaker again today, another $46 million on top of the $50 million. That's $96 million for that project. We have generated over $60 million for the school district. It's been drawn down or committed because of this Recovery Act. It has made a huge difference in real people's lives. No bigger difference, though, than this Jobs Now program. And I'll just conclude with this. This is part of the TANF money that came through the original $787 billion stimulus program that's created 1,854 jobs to date. Every single day, we're hiring dozens and dozens of people. We'll be well over 2,000. We'll exceed our stretch goal of 2,500 very, very shortly. This program has created opportunities for Eric. It's created opportunities for Bill. It's created opportunities, again, for thousands of San Franciscans. And that's a big deal. And I'll tell you, lives have significantly been changed. And so today, from my perspective, is a day to celebrate and to communicate the success of this program and the success of the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. I cannot impress upon you more how lucky we are to have the Speaker of the House as our local congressional representative. I won't burden you, and as I told the Speaker, I don't want to patronize, because she's here, with all of the things that she has done for all these many years. But I think few things are more significant than what she's done in the last couple of years as Speaker in terms of aiding this city through its most difficult economic crisis in its history. And that is something that, again, will impact the city not just for the moment, but for years and years to come. So, Speaker, today we also celebrate you and your leadership and your extraordinary contribution to this country, to this state, and obviously to our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for your kind words, for your tremendous leadership, for being an entrepreneurial mayor of a great, innovative city. It is appropriate that we're here at UCSF. Thank you, Chancellor Desmond Hellman, for your leadership nationally and globally on innovation, and for having UCSF be of such a magnet for resources from the National Institutes of Health, and over $100 million from the Recovery Act alone. $25 million, Dr. Reich told us about earlier, that would not, for a research project that would not have happened without the Recovery Act. Let me say this is a very special day for us because we worked very hard to put together this recovery package. Our country was on the brink of falling into a deeper recession. And if the mayor is talking about not getting credit for saves, I think it should indicate how deep that recession was that we're pulling ourselves out of, and that we had to save ourselves from falling beyond the brink. Under the leadership of President Barack Obama, we were able to pass this recovery package. Yes, the mayor says there are those who say not one job was created, but as the president indicated this morning, that has not prevented Republican members of Congress from going to ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and dedications of projects that must be creating some jobs in their districts. I certainly am proud to represent a district that has always been have models, national models of national significance that others can learn from, so that, of course, we would be a magnet for resources to encourage innovation. And as the mayor indicated, nearly $1 billion in this one piece of legislation. Again, that kicks open the door for much more as we go down the road. But nothing we can say as officials is as eloquent as the validation that our small business people and others, the police chief, Bernadette, Art from Laundry Locker, Bill from Gentle, Ortiz Cartagena from Gentle Parking, Gentle parking. That's quite a name. Not telling us what's happening at the in terms of the Muni. Mr. Alvarez told us earlier in terms of housing. Chris told us and others about education. The mayor told us about Jobs Now. Trent did earlier. Eric and Scott Hauge talking to us about small business. Bernadette, I am going to give these pictures. I had the honor of receiving these from Bernadette Ferreira earlier today, signed by members of her class, and with their appreciation for the difference that the recovery package made to them. This is about them as individuals and the jobs and their aspirations to be part of the public safety of our community. So it's about jobs, it's about economic recovery, it's about public safety. And so thank you for your interest, because as the chief has said to us, and we all know, unless the community is safe, it's hard to do anything else. And that's our first responsibility with the police and fire, which have both benefited from the recovery package. I think it's important to note the following. A year ago, just think of these four things. 1 year ago, the unemployment rate for the month, the preceding month, was 740, not rate, the job loss, 741,000 jobs. Same month this year, 22,000 jobs. About a 720,000 job loss difference. Now, we don't like losing 20+ thousand jobs, and we have to do better than that. But it was almost 750,000 jobs more last January. Stock market then was 700. It's over 1,000 now, 3,000 points. The difference that this recovery package has also made in our GDP. Last year, corresponding time, reported in January, for January, 6.4% negative GDP. This year, 5.7% positive for the corresponding month. What is that? Over 11%, over 12% change in the GDP. So whether it's the GDP, whether it's jobs, whether it's the stock market, or whether it is the sustained investments, 5 months in a row, 6 months in a row, the best performance in over 5 years, in years. So this recovery package is making a big difference. Let's remove all doubt about that in terms of saving our economy from the path that it had been on because of the policies of the previous administration. I didn't really even want to talk about them, but if the mayor's saying that they're trying to counter the impact of this, I think we must remove all doubt. But again, nothing we can say is as eloquent or more important than what we hear from our small business people and what it has meant to them, what we hear from our own public safety, our transportation, our housing, our education, and the rest, and what it has meant to them. Again, it translates into jobs, and jobs puts food on the table. It's about consumers, and consumers are the lifeblood of the economy. But in addition to that, it's about the education of our children, the safety of our neighborhoods, the quality of life for our people. So we are very, very proud, and I salute President Obama. That's why I'm going to bring him these pictures, which I know he will be delighted to receive as soon as we go back into session next week, to show him firsthand your personal validation of his hard work. I'll tell him about the push-ups, too. They're doing push-ups today. But again, let me get back to where we are, to UCSF. This is one of the largest recipients of National Institute of Health funding in the country. And there's a reason for it, because of the caliber of leadership. Chancellor Desmond Hellman's naming as to be Chancellor was well received throughout the country and the world, as well as we take special pride here because of her innovative thinking and her entrepreneurial thinking about scientific research. Here we stand in a place which has demonstrated the biblical power to cure. They have the imagination, the ideas, the scientific knowledge. They need the resources. They've always competed favorably for them with this recovery package, over $100 million in this 1 year alone. Now, generally speaking, let's just say this. Much of the money of the recovery package is yet to come. Much of it has been allocated, not all of it. distributed and some of it to be allocated yet. So we're on a path that is very positive. And the word that bill was, that legislation was supposed to instill was confidence. So let's recognize the success of it. Let's be confident about how we go forward, because that confidence and the confidence of our president in advancing this and other initiatives is what is going to grow us out of this recession that we were in. And the fact that it's a heavy lift is indicative of the change that was needed because of the path we were on before. So thank you, Chancellor, for your hospitality here today, for your leadership, for the work of so many people here to make our country, our people healthier and our country more competitive internationally when it comes to health sciences. And thank all of those gathered here. Did I mention everyone? The Chief and Bernadette and Chris and Eric Weaver and Scott Hauge and Mr. Albert. They've all been so wonderful. Again, I wish the whole country could hear what they have to say. But occasions like this are taking place across the country. Of course, they don't have a UCSF, but they have people who have taken advantage, exploited the opportunities in the recovery package in a very positive way. I think it is indeed a day that is cause for celebration to observe the recovery package, and all I can say is more to come. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Again, I want to thank the mayor. The mayor has not only been an implementer and an exploiter of what the opportunities are, he has been walking the halls of Congress to make suggestions from the standpoint of San Francisco, from the standpoint of mayors across the country on how we can do better in terms of the policy so that it's translated more efficiently and effectively, as Nat mentioned, in our community. So again, I want to salute you, Mr. Mayor. We have an entrepreneurial mayor leading an innovative city, a model for the country, and an inspiration as we advance public policies to reward that fresh thinking. Again, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a year ago, the California unemployment rate was 10.6%. Today, it's 12.4%. How does that square with the students?
Well, I think, as the mayor said, you don't get credit for saves. Just think of what it would be if we did not have this recovery package. California is a big state and has big challenges, and it has big budget issues, too, that have to be resolved. The federal government stands ready to help California as it gets its act together as we go forward. But California has received nearly $90 billion from the Recovery Act. Nearly $90 billion either distributed or allocated for California. Just think of where the state would be without the stabilization of those resources coming in, the stabilization for public jobs, the investments in the private sector, and other initiatives. $90 billion that 1 year ago, minus a few days, the state had no prospect of receiving.
Madam Speaker,
yes.
What's been the biggest hurdle in terms of getting that message out?
Well, the fact is we've been hard at work. You know, we've been doing the job. Now we have, as I say, we've been baking the pie. Now we have to sell the pie. And for some reason, there's the school of thought that thinks that there is no role for government. And so in order to make that point, we'll say there's no positive impact from what has been done. I think also, to be very honest with you, there was confusion in the public mind about the bank bailout, the I don't know what they're calling that. I don't know what the euphemism is for whatever that was, the TARP legislation. And that was necessary because of the failed regulation, discipline, supervision, and policies of the previous administration, our financial institutions were in crisis. Their own reckless behavior contributed to that, but the policies in Washington, D.C. allowed that to happen. And so that had to happen. That was to the tunes of hundreds of billions of dollars, much of which has been paid back. But it was a cause of great anger in the American people, and then the recovery coming on the heels, those who were opposed to the recovery tried to blend the two, and they had some level of success in confusing the public as to which was which and what the purpose of one was. And so that's why to have the validation of people creating jobs, putting food on the table, educating our children, protecting our people, it means so much, again, across the country. So that drumbeat, that constant drumbeat, that echo chamber of this is the recovery. Take a second look. This is what it means to your community. It would be horrible to imagine where we would be without it. But I think part of it was the confusion between the two, which was exploited by those who did not want to see the recovery package put forth. And as you know, in the Congress, we did not get one. In the House, we did not get one Republican vote. But that doesn't mean, as I say, that they aren't standing at ribbon cuttings and dedications and taking credit for the jobs that are being created in their districts.
Madam Speaker, on that not one Republican vote, and continue to naysay the progress that you say you've made, is perhaps an illustration of why Senator Bayh is not running for re-election. I'm wondering if you have any comments on the partisan gridlock, and if you feel you have any role in this.
Well, let me say this. First of all, we didn't come here to talk politics. We're talking policy, and on this ground. That's right. Well, that's not politics. You're going into elections now. But let me say this. Senator Bayh is a great leader in our country. His announcement that he's not going to run again is disappointing and a loss for us, not just because he's a number in the Senate, because of the quality of his leadership and the great state that he represented. So we're all disappointed by that announcement. I believe, as Speaker of the House, that we all have a responsibility to find our common ground on issues of concern to the people, that are issues that are relevant to their lives, the economic security of their families, the education of their children, the health and well-being, again, of their children and all members of their families, the public safety of their neighborhoods, a safe world in which they can thrive and reach their aspirations. And we have, again, a responsibility to find common ground. And where we can, we do. And where we don't, we must stand our ground. Because we have two different attitudes toward the role of government. And so we have over 200 bills over in the Senate side that have received, 70% of them have received strong bipartisan support. Most people don't hear about that. What you hear about are issues like health care, where the Republicans have not supported universal quality health care for all Americans. They don't support it. They didn't support Social Security, they didn't support Medicare, and they don't support universal access to quality health care. So while the President once again is reaching out next week to have a meeting to see what ideas can be incorporated, if you don't believe that the government role is there, it's very hard to find common ground. I will say that in our bill, in the House, we accepted probably 15 to 18 of the Republican amendments to the legislation, and they offered their own bill on the floor, their substitute, which ensured, our bill ensures over 30 million more Americans. Theirs insured 3. In fact, the number of insured people went down in their bill. So we have a difference of opinion. They have a budget. You want to know the difference between the parties? Look at the budget. They have a budget that moves to privatize Social Security, eliminate Medicare as we know it today by moving to a voucher system. We don't agree. So it's hard to find common ground on eliminating Social Security and Medicare. So understand the challenge that we have, but that doesn't remove the responsibility we have to find our common ground. We were able to pass our energy bill under President Bush. Nobody thought we could pass the bill. We passed it with great amendments to it with Republican support, and that was signed into law, and some of that policy is reflected in the Recovery Act in terms of funding. We were able to pass our Competes Act, our Innovation Agenda bill under President Bush. He wouldn't fund it. We couldn't fund it until the Recovery Act. We were able to work with President Bush to pass the financial legislation. The Republicans were not going to work with President Bush to take it was the president's problem, it was the president's solution, and his party abandoned him on it. We didn't like voting for that, but it was necessary to stop the financial crisis. So when it really mattered for President Bush, the Democrats were there to help save our country from a financial crisis. So let's not be misled into thinking that this is about, we don't like your ideas no matter what they are. We don't like them, but if they're necessary, we'll have to do it, and we'll find a way to do that. So it is, it's interesting, though, the way, and more on the subject, the Republicans in the Senate, by requiring 60 votes on every vote, have slowed down every initiative. We have a comprehensive education bill that passed in the House. We have a climate change energy bill that passed in the House, with health care bill that has passed in both houses. These three pillars were the pillars of the president's budget to grow the economy and create jobs and bring economic stability to our country. You see on this sign, reduce the taxes for 95% of the American people, reduce the deficit, and create jobs. That was the president's budget. We passed those bills, but the Senate requiring 60 votes every time. Harry Reid would have the votes, but he wouldn't have the time to go through all of the procedural votes day after day after day. So you want to know why there's gridlock in Washington? You need look no further than the Republicans in the United States Senate in requiring an extraordinary supermajority when the Constitution says 51 votes. There is a procedure that they can use 60 for extraordinary purposes, but they have used it every single vote. So that's why we have this, because we believe in different things. And if their goal is to stop everything and not try to find compromise, then you get what appears to be this partisanship, which it is. But it's not because we're not seeking common ground. It's because they have decided nothing will pass in the Congress. And that's unfortunate, because our leadership in the world demands that we take the lead on new clean energy jobs for the future, that we invest in the education of our children, because innovation for their own aspirations, but because innovation and international competitiveness depends on it. Because we have to have health care for all Americans. Not only is it the right thing to do, the present system is totally unsustainable financially. You cannot sustain it. Individuals can't sustain it. Businesses can't sustain it. Our economy can't sustain it. And our federal budget can certainly not sustain the increased cost of health care in our entitlement programs. So it is essential. It is essential that we get the job done. If they, again, don't believe in any role of the government in health care, then you can understand why they want to eliminate Medicare as we know it today, because that does have a government role.
Madam Speaker, should Americans be optimistic that there indeed will be health care reform?
Oh, we cannot take no for an answer. As I said, we'll try to go through the gate. The gate is locked. We'll climb over the fence. If the fence is too high, we'll pole vault in, and if that doesn't work, we'll parachute in, but we're going to find a way past the obstacle to universal quality health care for all Americans. Again, as I said, the current system is unsustainable. It is about the character of our country, as Senator Kennedy said. It's about the character of our country that all of our people have access to quality health care. But it's also, again, fiscally, from a budget standpoint, unsustainable for families, for businesses, for the economy, and for the budget. So it's a pretty exciting time. I think we're pretty close to having, and I'll look forward to any further ideas that our colleagues may have next week, because, again, we don't care what the source of an idea is. If it works, it's relevant to the lives of American people, and it works for them, we welcome those positive suggestions. But if the point is to obstruct, well, we can't just say the Republicans don't want this, so that's the end of it for health care for all Americans. That's simply not going to happen.
Can you talk to us about the strategy you're pursuing?
Excuse me one second. Does anybody who hasn't had a question? Yes, sir.
Way back here. We're hearing from you that we haven't yet seen the full effect of the first recovery act.
Yes.
Do you therefore think it's premature to talk about a second recovery act?
Well, thank you for your question. And I know if you all have to go, this is to your jobs. Created by the Recovery Pact. Not created by, but encouraged by. Here's the thing. We passed the recovery package. You know, the president stood on the steps of the Capitol. He said, I want swift, bold action now. 1 week and 1 day after that speech, we passed the recovery in the House because we were ready. We were ready with all of these ideas that we had wanted to apply resources to but couldn't in the previous administration, and, of course, greatly enhanced by the president's leadership and his ideas. 100 days from then, we passed the budget. And the budget, again, was about economic stabilization. It was about creation of jobs. It was about tax cuts for the middle class. It was about deficit reduction. I can't say deficit reduction enough. Everything is about taking down the deficit. Taking down the deficit. And, again, healthcare, education, and energy/climate change, clean energy jobs for the future were the 3 pillars of job creation. It had been our hope, we passed all of those in the House, and we had been our hope that they would be the law of the land and creating jobs by now. But as you know, none of them has passed in the United States. Well, the health care has, but not the final bill. So it may be necessary for us to give a boost because of those bills not passing. And so we'll have some job creator. Again, we passed it in the House. The Senate is showing us their bill. We'll have something soon, but nothing on the scale of the recovery package. We believe in the recovery package. We believe that the priorities were correct, the sources were correct, and that to the extent that we need, as you pointed out, unemployment is still there, and so we need a bill that will have unemployment insurance, the COBRA, some of the safety net provisions, which, by the way, according to The Economist, are the biggest stimuli to the economy. Nothing grows the economy. You'll get more bang for the buck from investing in unemployment insurance than almost any investment you can make, whether it's unemployment insurance, food stamps. Of course, the COBRA is very important. So we need a bill to extend those issues that relate to the unemployment that we still have, and we need some investments using either the tax code or appropriated dollars or public-private initiatives to give us an additional jolt. But as I say, nothing of the size of that. One piece of good news that you should really know is something that has been a goal that we've had for a long time, which is pay-as-you-go budgeting. So that we're never increasing the deficit. In fact, we're reducing the deficit. My friends, it might interest you to know that in 1982, Congressman George Miller from the East Bay, took this resolution to the Democratic midterm convention in Philadelphia. Pay as you go. Progressive Democratic initiative at the convention. It passed and became part of the platform for that convention. It took us a while for it to become implemented, and it was during the Clinton years. And I remind you that when President Clinton was president, the last 4 budgets under pay-as-you-go resulted in 4 budgets, his last 4 budgets that were either in balance or in surplus. He was on a trajectory of $5.6 trillion to go to surplus when the failed economic policies of the Bush administration came in and took us now to a place where we are on a trajectory of deficit, a swing of about $11 trillion, the biggest swing in history. And so it was important for us to get pay-as-you-go back as the law of the land, back as the operating principle. And I wanted it as the law of the land, and we finally got it passed about 2 weeks ago in the Senate. We had passed it in the House, but we had finally got it passed in the Senate. When I became Speaker, it became the rule of the House, but we needed it to pass in the Senate to become the law of the land. And we have practiced pay-as-you-go in the House. Now Congress must. And so the deficit reduction is our mantra. It is essential. The deficits are intolerable. And one of the biggest contributors to the ongoing growth of the deficit are the rising medical cost, especially as applied to our entitlements of Medicare and Medicaid, and that's why we have to have this health care reform. I think we have to go back to work, but I thank you all very much for being here today. Once again, I want to salute UCSF and the Chancellor for her leadership. I want to thank the Mayor for being such a great leader in our community and for advocating for cities across the country. Thank you all very much.